Yes. So thank you so much again for all the contribution. It has been beautiful to, just to learn, to hear from you and understand, among and within also the other youth that we have out there who might be also having the opportunity to watch this video and to hear and learn from you. So going to our next question, I would say, do you think that colonization or apartheid did cripple our Africa, especially the society, to the extent that we can help our youth to doing greater things? Because as much as we have the youth that is out there researching and they're gaining every knowledge from here and there, as you're saying, we have to go back to our roots. Yes, we can go to our roots, but then what do they do with that knowledge? How do they stand in our society with that knowledge? So is it because we are so affected by this apartheid and colonization that happened within Africa that have left us really, we are just like crippled
by our colonization and the apartheid mentality was to psychologically rewire their ways of doing things and also spiritually uh, dilute the culture from its roots so that we become dependent, and then we also experience what we call inferiority complexity that has created a boundary that will have excluded ourselves from recognizing each other as humans, but has created a materialistic desire so that we see each other as object of desire. So that was some of the two extremes within in indigence, and further the two extremes that resulted as the after effect of those atrocities was physiological and psychological and spiritual abolishment of our roots, of our culture, and of our ancient soul wisdom. So that is what the colonization and apartheid has done to our African ways or our indigenous ways of connecting. And then when we look at also the other extreme, which is in indulgence, indulgence has brought about three fundamentals, which is lack, limitation, and scarcity. So when there is a lack of resource, then you get to understand that it is created in the absentia of your willingness and ability to be able to recognize your individual or your unique birthright or value for human, as those values are vested in your beliefs and are vested in your understanding of wisdom of the elders, and are vested also in our transcendental knowledge, which cannot be affected by materialistic desires or materialistic bondage. And also the limitation was brought about the inferiority complexity, which has labeled those extreme atrocities that has transpired with the colonization and apartheid to be able to marginalize us based on our creed, based on our physical appearance, and based on the linguistic or language that we will be able to speak. And then that in itself brought about the scarcity of our abundance in realizing and recognizing that we have abundance of knowledge and wisdom and also of resources within ourselves, and that is reflected within the footprint of the length and breadth of this nation and this continent. With that, there are other socially engineered atrocities that came as a result of what you have mentioned. There is a seclusion of certain characteristics that have been labeled by the apartheid. There is certain characteristics that has moved from the humanity to dehumanizing the African physiology, the African spirituality, and African culture in ways that has made us to believe in limitation and scarcity, so that we become dependent on Western hegemony and we become dependent on the Eastern hegemony for us to be able to appeal, for us to be able to be recognized, for us to be able to belong, for us to be able to force our way into an unwanted and space where we were firstly not recognized as custodians of that. Hence, colonization has transpired. But with that, it has brought about what I would like to call the 4D approach, which is delinking from the institutionalized way of perceiving our normative reality, because of there is objective truth and subjective truth. Also, we looking to the objective truth and subjective truth, it is also relative truth to how we understand succinctly our stance, whether socially, whether economically, whether technologically, whether scientifically, and also whether spiritually we are where we are because of those atrocities that has resulted as part and parcel of colonization and apartheid. So with that, we need to understand that we need to evolve. So how do we evolve? By raising above our fears, we learn to express unconditional ways of creating a conducive mindset that can be able to rise above those lag limitation and scarcity. Those lag limitation and scarcity are brought about fear of the unknown. Fear, the word fear it is translated as false element appearing real or false illusion appearing real. So fear is nothing but an absence of knowledge and wisdom about oneself. So it is paramount importance to know thyself truly and understand your conceptualizing and visualization and interpretation of what is around you, what is within you. Because of to heal the world, we need to heal ourselves. So we need to heal the world from inside out, not from outside in, because of we tend to ingest things that are not good for our spiritual being, for our health, wellness being, and overall for our psychological well-being. So those are the after effect of apartheid and colonization that brought about like limitation and scarcity. They brought about prejudice, extreme prejudice. They brought about division, which has further succinctly dehumanized our Ubuntu ways. So right now, youth must look at how, from the delinking of these Western hegemonies that have been embedded in our psyche, to be able to have a reversal engineering approach that will be able to undo certain aspects of the social cohesion that has resulted as colonial mindset. So the first pillar of decolonization is the mindset. How do we adjust our mindset to be able to express our philosophy deliberately and consciously? We need to look at the laws that are governing us, the law of grace, and then the laws of free will that operates in many ways, you know. So we must attain a master of life awareness through what we have been fed by this colonial mentality and this apartheid. So how do we undo that? The second part of understanding the decolonization of the mindset is to apostatize. When we apostatize, we must apostatize the philosophy that is not working for you, you must apostatize the religion that is not working for you, you must apostatize the values, the beliefs that are not working for you, that are not resembling the health and wellness being and spiritual wellness of your unique identity. That is the into way that is a symbol of ramification of undoing or delinking decolonization and the decommodification to recommodify what already was ours, and then looking at how can we move from those mindset of lack, limitation, and scarcity and incorporate the strategies that I have outlined to be able to look within ourselves and say, what is it that when I close my eyes, the voice within you and the consciousness of your conscience, how it is speaking to you, and the way in which you speak to yourself about yourself, and look at ways in how you respond to the outside world and how you ingest what is the true identity of oneself. There are other ways of identifying that which can be not of building, investing, and growing, which looks at other ways of the third pillar of the decolonization, which is a community-based approach from the apostatization. So when you apostatize, you moving to the manifestation, there is a law of one, that every soul is connected to the level of galactic consciousness, and then our higher self. We need to attain that goal. So to move the energy forward, we need to understand that the vibration that causes us to be connected, it is what we must tune into and listen to those frequencies that moves, increase our spiritual account. So vibrations are the ones that will be able to increase our spiritual account, to move from the lack, limitation, and scarcity that was caused by apartheid, and create a levity of opportunities of abundance, because of we are living a life of abundance. The colonization mindset and apartheid has interjected that and has diluted that in a way that has caused a lot of division, a lot of separation, a lot of needy, a lot of lack, limitation, and scarcity, which are the fundamentals of what has transpired within those colonial mindset. So to rise above our karma, we need the conscious detachment. So conscious detachment, it is the resistance of what causes you to suffer. And then what causes us to suffer are many things in life, like relationships, loved ones, sickness, accidents, hardships, unfulfilled desires. But we are able, with the reality, without resisting something and accepting the facts of what is, no matter how much we resist it, we are able to change what we can change with our wisdom and accept unalterable situations which cannot change. So this will bring us to the way in how we perceive things and where our attitude is vested. And where our attitude is vested, that is where our energy will flow. And where your energy flow, that is where the manifestation will culminate into desirable or undesirable behaviors that you and you alone are accountable and responsible for them. So that will bring us to the fourth pillar of the decoloniality, which is intelligent community and also economic activities. So with the communities is that we tend to have a resistance to change. So when we resist to change, we will perpetuate its influence upon our life because of the fear of encountering it until we are forced to deal with it. That is part and parcel of conscious detachment. And then it brings about how we can be able to relate to ourselves with others. Because of how we see ourselves, it may be something that we dislike in another. And what we dislike in another might be something that we are afraid is inherent within us. And what we like within ourselves might be something that we also like within another. Or what we fear within ourselves, we might also project and perpetuate it and then dislike the person because of what is inherent, what we are afraid of is within ourselves. So those are the dialectic of how we can consciously detach from the negativity by allowing the negativity to go through us without affecting us. So those are some of the ramifications that will help the viewpoint to change our perspective that affects our problem. So if we are no longer affected by the problem, we no longer have the problem, even though nothing about the problem has changed. But the aspect of resistance is what that you become what you resist, if not in this lifetime, maybe in the next lifetime. But we are able to reassure ourselves that that whatever has resulted in a conscious detachment can also be reflected within our resistance to change, and that has an effect within how we perceive ourselves and we perceive others around us. So there are also how we experience love and how we experience certain things within our daily life that speaks to our beliefs, speaks to our values, speaks to our tradition, speaks to our heritage, and speaks to also the economical conditions that we are subjected to or subjected to, as I spoke about the objective truth and the subjective truth. And there is the relative truth that we, each and every one of us, are connected by the consciousness because of we are energy. And if we are energy, each and every one of us is able to connect to each and every one of us through the vibration and the frequencies, as we are human beings that has vibrations and frequencies. So that has what I've spoken to speaks to what I've also mentioned as a reflective approach. When we reflect, we need to recognize and how we respond to ourselves and others, both negative and positive, because of the primary manifestation of the fourth pillar of reflecting is that what you admire in others, you recognize as existing within yourself. And then that you resist in others and you react strongly to in others, it is surely to be found within yourself. And that is which you react to others is something that you are afraid exists within yourself. And also that which you resist within yourself, you will dislike in others. So that is how we should be able to reflect and understand our way of doing things within the 4D approach, or we can also add the 5D, which is digitalization. So from the digitalization aspect, we'll touch largely on some of the technological advancement that are happening within the length and breadth of this continent, which the digitalization is a pilot from analog to digital. So that transition is still an ongoing process, which other countries within Africa can speedily switch from what was not there to going fully digital because of there are no legacy systems apart from colonial mentality, which has brought those atrocities and two extremes to dilute the consciousness and have majority of us as Africans believe in leg limitation and scarcity. So that is what has led to the culmination of where we are right now. And then how do we move that? We need to recognize the law of abundance and recognize that you have within yourself everything you require for your earthly incarnation. That this incarnation is a paradise you choose to accept, which is your natural birthright. So when you accept your natural birthright, the moment you accept your natural birthright, that is when you start to recognize the abundance that is within yourself, and then that is also within the length and breadth of this continent. And that it is recognizing that everything comes from the earth, everything comes from the soil, and then that is how we should be able to nurture the condition respectively with what we do to advance ourselves socially, community wise, education wise, and also economic wise, and other technological advancement that we have seen within our lifetime. So this it's translated into our experiences that assures us that we will always experience what has brought about those atrocities. So to move from that, we need to have a mind, psychological, and spiritual audit, because we need to look into those trauma that has brought those experiences and look at how we explore avenues into uncharted territories that will enable us to experience abundance of willingness and ableness to move from where we are to where we want to be as an envisioned continent and envisioned countries within our respective uh, length and breadth of where we are located right now.
Yes.
So this is a way of understanding the divine order, and we need to study the natural balance, for it works pretty much the same way as men, as human, as women, and then we need to experience its potential from the total harmony and understand that there are no accidents. Is that your energy, it is translated into your thoughts, into words, emotion, and deeds, which causes our experiences. So when we experience that, this assures us that we have a learning opportunity that requires to resolve our atrocities that has transpired as a result of colonization or apartheid, and also this economical uh, uh, extremes of indigence and indulgence. So the deeds of mankind within us is to focus on energy that will bring about peace. And then when the majority of souls are focused on having peace, we will be able to experience universal positiveness of mass positive energy. We can say yin yang, we will experience the mass yang energy instead of mass yin energy. So when, if the majority of our people are filled with anger, we may experience war,
Yes.
which many sub personalities around the length and breadth of this continent are experiencing currently, you know. And then within the dominant traits of mankind, we will be able to succinctly distinguish traits that are pertinent, and will be able to elevate our consciousness, elevate our spirituality, and our count will be able to glow from within and have a particular vision that is coherent with the Ubuntu and Ubuntu that has been diluted by the colonial mentality and the apartheid mindset. So the dialectical approach of it, that is where also the problem lies, because of the approach looks at massaging the objective and subjective truth, which makes it a way of us not able to come together and form a bondage with our true identities. So that is where things of this atrocity has culminated into, and then which that can be addressed by the attitude that we have ourselves as South Africans or as Africans, that nothing in the universe can harm you but your own attitude. And we need to understand that our own attitude, it is one that moves us to events and experiences. And then it is our own attitude that will make a situation worse or make a situation lighten based on how our attitude we perceive it. And then with that, it can also have a distinctive approach where two people will not respond the same to events or tragedies. Every earthly being has their own way of responding and identifying their traumatic experience, which makes them better understand where they're coming from or how they perceive and what is their attitude towards certain mechanisms that have been bought by the colonial system and also further apartheid system. So this response or the attitude will be able to make us have a likely woke response into our spiritual perspective, because we are able to collectively say that if we can balance the disharmony of what has culminated as the two extremes of the apartheid system, certainly as the new age, we must not give up individually or collectively, because we know that the fear is the problem and love is the answer. So we must not put fear as a driving factor of how we realize and experience our way of living, but we must be driven by love, and then understand that there are other ways in which we can be able to understand each other and form bonds that are long lasting. So that bond speaks to association. So our association with the Western hegemony, with all this African continental free trade, the global economy, World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the IMF, and the other monetary institutions that drive the economy, we need to understand that what was the fundamental scientific reasoning behind it. So the fundamental scientific reason behind it is pay as you go. When we understand the pay as you go, we we understand, we come close to understanding the association, that if two or more units of something have something in common, that commonality can be used to influence your decision making, and the degree of that commonality can have both or more influence in how you do things. For example, how I've indicated in our first part, that we need to apostatize. So the relation or the association of certain things like religiosity, when you have a Bible, you associate it to Christianity. When you have a Quran, you associate it to Muslim. When you have a Bhagavad Gita, you associate it to Christian. So that is an example of religious association based on the ingestion of the philosophy that you value or you are inclined to.